Okay, thank you for joining me this webinar. I hope today we can share something with all of you. Before we start the webinar, maybe I'd like to do a poll, right? So maybe Kenny, can you put out a poll? Okay, maybe you can just make a selection in terms of what is your plan and factory current status of the implementation of the Industry 4.0. So we just have a quick poll, and from there we can start our presentation. Okay, Kenny, can you show the result of the poll? Okay, so you can see that most of you have not yet started the implementation, and some of you actually have started to try to understand the requirements. And of course, there are some, 11% that have a dedicated team to look into the Industry 4.0. And okay, some have actually done some POC. I think that's great. 3% have actually have a very full roadmap in terms of scale up the POC in the coming years. Okay, I think, thank you very much for, so as you know that I think still a lot of people is trying to understand what's Industry 4.0 and also see how can they scale up. So I think today we would like to share some of these so-called finding after I have involved in some of this activity with the region and also with the associations, right? So without further ado, I would like to share my screen. Okay, so today's topic is talking about, why, where, how, and who, in terms of how can you build your team, right, to go to the journey of the building our smart factories. So without further ado, okay, this webinar will be recorded, I think, mainly for the training and also educational purpose. So I think in the last couple of months and also the last few years, I'm involved in some of these regional so-called conference and talk about IoT, talk about Industry 4.0. And also recently I have co-authored a book, Industry 4.0, mainly on the ASEAN perspective. I'm from Precicon, right? So we started our company in 1985. This is where the industrial automation is being promoted by the government. And later on, I think we actually have a lot of plan to go into the from 2.0 to 3.0. So we are actually part of the Precicon group, which is a main board listed company. It's a manufacturing plant, manufacturing cable. And we have our group company consists of Linkim High Electric, and also another company is Linkim High Project Distributions. So all of us are involved in the industrial distribution of the power, control, measurement, safety, and all these products. And combined, I think three companies, we have more than 120 years experience in serving our industry in Singapore. Okay, I think now you know that we are in the COVID-19. I think this is actually, if you look at it, it's very volatile, very uncertain. It's very complex as well, and also a lot ambiguous. But I think we should not fear all these things. We should actually see how can we leverage on this and, we move forward as an individual and also as a company. So what we encourage is actually some of the experts is mentioning that if you can have a vision, right? As a vision for your company, as a vision for your so-called departments, I think that will actually soften the impact, right? Because once they have a vision, they know where to go. I think it's easier to manage. And also, how can you, meet the uncertainty? I think it's with understanding. So you must know what's going on in the industry, things like that. Complexity, I think, is very important, that you need to communicate with your people very clearly so that your people can work as a team. Lastly is ambiguity. I think we have to make sure that we stay adaptable, and also during this uncertainty time, we actually encourage people to learn new skill, and also to embrace creativity and innovations. In the last couple of years, we see things happen in an exponential way. So if you think of in 1982, right, the cost of all this technology is in a range of 100 to 1,000. But if you look at today's perspective, all these costs come to almost zero, right? So in a way that I think we are in the era of exponential, and I think a lot of this technology will come. I think we should embrace all this technology. And because of that, I think the manufacturing actually will be facing a lot of disruption, and also a lot of creations, and also the innovations. So this is where I think we should stay focused and see how to move things forward. When I said let's say for instance, if you know that the iPhone's was released in 2007. So if you look at even after release 4 years, 2011, a lot of these application, right, become free. But if you look at all these application, if you need to buy them, right, the original device, and in all this year, that, like for instance, 1977 to 1987 onward, all this price you need to pay is almost 1 million Sing dollars. So just imagine that your handphone is very powerful. So this is where I think we are going to. This is why you see a lot of business model is being disrupted. Like Uber, Airbnb is coming up during this period. Industry 1.0 to 3.0, I think it takes almost 100 to 200 years. And now we are entering into the industry 4.0. If you look at the last three industry revolutions, only one or two technology actually surfaced to revolutionize the production and also the way that people work. But moving forward, I think the industry 4.0, it actually consists of a lot of this, more than 10 of these exponential technologies. And this is going to disrupt a lot of industry, going to disrupt a lot of the so-called social, and also create a lot of social impact. One thing if you realize that each of these industry revolutions, the speed, I think, is focused on how fast can you transport the data, how fast can you transport the physical goods. And industry 4.0, actually, we are focusing a lot of time in the data aspect. If you look at the last 2 years, many of these people is talking about 5G, and I know that 5G is going to roll out in Singapore. And I will talk about 5G in terms of the impact on the manufacturing as well. So worldwide, in 2014, when Germany proposed the Industry 4.0, the rest of the country also tried to come out their own model. So for instance, the American, they have their own model. The UK, France have their own model, and China has come out the Make in China 2025. So as a small nations, I think we want to see how to plug into this Industry 4.0 era. So I think I will introduce a bit in terms of what we do in Singapore. I think EDB have come out assessment that allowed our company to see how can they assess in terms of the maturity of their manufacturing plant. So if you look at all this exponential technology, as I say, is that we are facing with all this very high end and very high speed, and some of these include a lot of the old technology, but it's upgraded technology. And some of this very new technology, for instance, the blockchain, for instance, the advanced materials, right? And Internet of Things, I think the last couple of years become very buzzword of all the company. So the technology that we can embrace to improve our plant, to improve our daily life. According to the Deloitte's survey 2019. They survey about 2,000 global companies, and the CEO actually have confirmed that all this technology in terms of priorities will be very important, right, in terms of how they impact on the organizations. So you look at Internet of Things is number one, then you have artificial intelligence, cloud, big data, and so on. So all these are technology that allow you to push yourself to advance into a new economy and also a new way of doing business. But don't forget, all these are tools. They are not the outcome. So the trick is how you leverage all this technology to your advantage. So if you ask a lot of people what's Industry 4.0, it's just like, you know, if you look at this picture, is if you just look at certain part of it, you think that that is Industry 4.0. I don't think it's the right picture. I think when, let's say you go to a seminar, talk about AI, then after that you think that AI is everything. AI is Industry 4.0. We have to look at the Industry 4.0 as a holistic, right? So it consists of all these technologies. Industry 4.0 and also the German proposed this so-called the RAMI model, meaning it's a reference architecture for manufacturing industries. If you look at this, they are looking into 3 dimensions, right? First dimension is the product life cycles. Second dimension is the layer, right? And the third dimension is hierarchy, is the manufacturing hierarchies. So in fact, all this layer is already being followed by a lot of IEC standard, right? So in terms of adopting some of this IEC standard, in the past, it's already been happened, but most of these standards are not integrated. So this RAMI model actually is proposing a more integrated model, right? To make sure that all these layers and also all these standards will be promoted by all the companies who want to implement Industry 4.0, what we call it smart factory. So for example, take example like, you know, the layer 2, they are talking about the information flow between different levels. So in the past, I think all the information are very so-called hierarchical, right? One layer to the other layer. But I think moving forward, as you know, that with all this connectivity, you know, whether wireless or 5Gs, all this information actually will become very transparent, right? So if you look at the manufacturing floor, this is a very typical manufacturing floor. So this model actually is following the ISA 95. This has been used in a lot of chemical industry and process industry. So it's quite established systems. This is an Industry 3.0 scenario. Moving forward, as I said, that because of the connectivity and a lot of this interoperability will become very common, right? So I think we are moving towards a more software-defined operations, decentralized operation, and also flexible communication. So the data will become very transparent, right? And also very real-time moving forward. In my book, actually, we mentioned about some of the criteria, right? In terms of how you use the different types of concept to build your smart factory. So I think this is, which is I already mentioned in my book. Some of this statement will be, you're able to get it from the portal that we built up in our Precicon website. So the thing is, how do you know that to what stage your factory is at now in terms of the maturity, right? So maturity, we are talking about how advanced is your manufacturing plant. So in the last 2 to 3 years, there are some framework is being proposed, right, by German and also by the UK. I think some of these models are a bit complex for the local industry. So this is where I think the EDB have tried to find more simplified and more easier to understand for all the company in Singapore and also the region to follow. Okay, this is one of the model that by the German model. So they are looking at the maturity, right? In terms of, are you a newcomer or you are leaders? In terms of how advanced is your plan. So there are a lot of assessment toolkits you can use. But we find that this still not easy for our local, especially the SME to follow. We have come out this so-called, Singapore has come out this so-called Smart Industry Readiness Index. So I encourage all of you to maybe to download these documents from the EDB website. So the Smart Industry Readiness Index basically is focusing on manufacturing. If you look at some of these assessment, it can be used by even the service company. Because as you know that in any company, you have input, process, and output, right? So a lot of these common practice can be used. In 2016, Singapore have realized that a lot of our SME in terms of productivity, the level is quite low as compared with a lot of this NMC. So government have proposed the industry transformation map. So this is one map that consists of 23 industry, and government invested 4.5 billion to ensure this so-called transformation program will be successful. And the 23 industry, actually, they also cluster into 6 clusters. So why clustering? Clustering is very important. You know that when you have a cluster, you can have a lot of common services, and you also can have a common infrastructures that all the cluster members can share. I think this is the purpose also behind the industry transformation map. One of the cluster, manufacturing cluster, actually is very important for Singapore. As you know that the last maybe 30 years, manufacturing actually occupy about 20 to 25% of GDP. So why I say 25? If you look at even the manufacturing actual productions, GDP is 20%, but the supporting industry who support the manufacturing is another 5%. So manufacturing actually is a cluster that provide a lot of the multiplier effect. And when the industry transformation map, there are 4 pillars that we encourage the local company, especially SME, to embrace, right? So by using this transformation map, they should be able to improve their productivity, the jobs and skills, innovation, and the trade in terms of how you expand to the overseas market. So innovation actually is not equivalent to invention. As you know that I think we are a small country, but what we can do is how to embrace all this technology to come out more innovation in terms of processes, in terms of business model. So to guide the manufacturing in 2017, the EDB have released this series, and this will be allowed the manufacturing company as well as some of the services company to have a self-assessment. This is a self-assessment tool, right? It's very easy to understand. So with this one, you should be able to have your whole organizations have a more holistic assessment. And from there, you know where to move to the next step. So industry 3.0 and 4.0, what is the difference? The 3.0 actually, you only focus on your manufacturing plant, right? So you have a lot of this OT technology that end up in the shop floor, and minimum information is flow to the enterprise layer. Only a few companies, they're actually injecting the data to the ERP layer. So that is the industry 3.0. But if you want to move into industry 4.0, you know that you have to connect end to end, right? From raw material all the way to your customer. This is a long journey. So as I say that to achieve industry from 3.0 to 4.0, basically to me, they will take another 20 to 30 years. So it's a long journey, but I think that we should start working on it now. In the industry 3.0, a lot of this manufacturing concept is what they do is they design the product, they do the manufacturing, and they sell the product through the marketing to the end user. And a lot of time this is belong to the push concept, right? And if you know that the push concept, in the past, there are a lot of wastage, right? The reason is you don't have the visibility, right, from your customer to your back end, to your supply chain. So according to IHL, they estimate that in 2015, 1.1 trillion was lost due to the supply chain in distortions. So distortion, as I said, that you're unable to have a full visibility of the whole supply chain. So sometimes you overstock or you understock. So I think this is the distortion that caused this 1.1 trillion loss. So one is 1.1 trillion, actually is equivalent to the whole GDP of Indonesia. So how to move into from push to pull, right? Meaning you pull the information from the marketplace, from your channels, right? From there you start doing your manufacturing and do your logistics. The only way is you have to embrace all this technology that, as mentioned before, and also I think moving forward, there will be a lot of new technology that come on board. So once you embrace this technology, you should be able to move slowly into the industry 4.0. And from there, you can pull all the information transparently and also will be in real time. For instance, when the 5G is fully being implemented, all the information will be in real time. Now I want to move into the smart industry readiness, the framework. Basically, I think there are three building blocks, right? One is the process, right? Then technology and the organizations. By talking to some of the experts, actually, we realized that the company should actually take step at a time. So you should look at your organization in terms of your workforce readiness and also your company structure and also in terms of your competency among your workforce. Once they are able to have understanding and also they are trained, from there you can move into how to improve your process. In fact, the industry 3.0, a lot of process are not very efficient, right? Because as I said that there's no visibility. So once you have your people trained, from there they can look at the process and they can reduce some of the waste and also look at some of the area that they can improve further. Last stage, then you can look at how the technology can help you further. So in the technology wise, you're looking at the automations, the connectivity, and also the intelligence. So you have to look at in the whole enterprise perspective, not only looking at your shop floor, but also your enterprise and also your facilities. This is the graphical representation of the final industry 4.0. So you know that there are many technologies that you can embrace, right? But you no need to embrace all these technologies. You should actually see how to selectively use them based on your company cost structure, based on the industry you are in, and also based on the ecosystem that you are in, which is more important. From there, you select your technologies. So as you know that the 2G, 3G, 4G is already being using in the industry. The up and coming 5G actually, to me, is very disruptive technologies that actually can transform a lot of businesses, a lot of processes. So 5G actually have three very distinctive features, right? For instance, the 5G, you are able to have a much bigger bandwidth and response times is almost real times. I give an example. Let's say when you touch your body, your brain only can sense that perceptions in 50 to 100 milliseconds. But 5G response time is 1 millisecond. So you can see that because of that response times, you can do a lot of remote real-time control remote real-time monitoring. Another feature is also the capacity. The current 4G or 3G base stations, at one time, probably you can log in by maybe 100,000 of connectivities, which is not possible for you to build a smart city, right? So smart city, you're talking about millions of connections that actually connect together at the same time. So the 5G will allow this kind of capacity, right? So this is where I think 5G will play a very important role. And you can see that there are many applications you can make use of 5G. When we talk about how to start, so as I said, I think after you looking through the series, do your own assessment, we actually encourage customers to see, first step is to digitize your shop floor or even your enterprise, right? A lot of time in the past, a lot of data are actually still very analog, and also they are not digitized. And because of that, I think a lot of error and a lot of inefficiency will be there. So once you're able to digitize all these informations, right, you're able to scale up very easily. So when you have all the data like being presented to you, you have a better visibility in terms of even your process, right? And how to maximize, how to optimize your process, right? So I think this is the second step. So once you have all this big data that you collect, this is where you eventually may want to go into the cloud or go into AI. AI and cloud and all this so-called machine learning without data, it's just a tool. It's very important that you should take the first step in terms of digitalization. In fact, we have currently helped a lot of companies, right, to look at this so-called digitalization process, providing with all these basic tools and technologies. So once they're able to get all this data from there, we also work with them how to do the next step. And of course, maybe 2 to 3 years later, they can have AI in the cloud. By the time, I think the security may not be a big issue. So in the OT layer, I think these are the technology and protocols become international standard. For instance, the OPC-UA actually is a protocol is being very commonly used by a lot of global company. And OPC-UA was adopted as a Singapore national standard last year. Why Singapore want to adopt this as an international standard? Because this is also in line with our Smart Nations programs. So as you know that once you want to connect all this data and different machines together, you need a very common language. So OPC-UA will be a common language for the Smart Nation, and also will be a common language for the manufacturing floor as well. Don't forget the last 30 years, 40 years, I think in the shop floor, we have developed a lot of these best practices. All these best practices are still useful in a way that all this will allow you to improve your process and also improve in terms of your quality and also your maintenance. But what you can do with all these practices is you have to digitize it. So once you digitize it, all these best practices will be going up to a next level. So in terms of the innovation, you know that design thinking has become one of the very popular so-called best practice. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, last 2 years, MOE already tried to teach design thinking, right, in all these secondary students. So once these students come on board to join your company, they already have the design thinking concept. Of course, you know that SkillsFuture is one of the national programs. We encourage all the people to keep on learning, right? To keep on upgrading, and lifelong learning, I think, has become a norm. As a company, we should think big, right? In terms of where you want to go. Right? After you look through the series framework, look into your business model. We can start small, right? As I say, that digitization is the first step. And this is where we help a lot of our customer to move into this first step. Right from there, we have to also move fast. The moment you have a POC successful, you should move fast so that you're able to capture the right data, you're able to analyze them. Okay, I think during your registration, we see some of the question being posed to us. So I want to take this opportunity to answer some of these questions that you posed to us. The first question is, what do you think are the technology available to overcome COVID-19 in the chemical and refinery process industries? With the IoT and also with some of these visualizations software, now you're able to get it quite cost effectively. Remote monitoring and remote control will become a reality. So as I say that when the 5G is fully deployed, in a factory, in fact, you can have your own 5G, local 5G network. And because of that, in terms of the capacity, in terms of the bandwidth, and also the response, in fact, you can monitor your plant remotely. So the industry 4.0, they are talking about cyber physical. Cyber meaning you have all the data in the ITC framework. The physical is all the physical thing, actually you can digitize them, right? So you can virtualize your factory. So once you're able to virtualize your factory, you can do remote control, remote monitoring. But of course, certain job that you need to be physically there, I think you'll be still doing that. But if you're able to make use of all these technologies, you still can carry on your operation without much disruption. We never know after even the COVID-19, what will happen. So if there's another crisis again, you're ready, right, in terms of maintaining your plan. Another question that posed by one of the companies, what are the new technologies for IoT and digital transformation for the facility and also the utility systems? So I want to maybe give you some heads up in terms of what we think that some of this technology that you can use. This is very common charge when it comes to maintenance, called PF curve, potential failure and also of the functions. A lot of times, I think, let's say for instance, some critical pump and motor, before they fail, there are some symptoms. And for instance, common practice is you will maybe put some vibration sensors, and maybe you will do some motor testing. And we see very commonly a lot of people using the thermographic, the handheld thermographic, that to scan the motor, to scan the switchboard, hopefully they can find some spot that will actually, they think that will create problems if they don't do further so-called the remedy. A lot of times in the industry 3.0, we tend to use the reactive mode or even preventive mode to maintain our systems. But moving forward, a lot of this so-called IoT technology allow you to pull all this data to your shop floor or even to your handphone, right? So how to do it? Let's say we take the thermographic technology as an example. So if it's an unplanned downtime, actually it's 75% unplanned downtime, actually costs you about 20% of production capacity. Very big impact for the manufacturing company. I want to maybe give you some heads up in terms of what the technology that's coming up. Omron has come out with this called the remote thermal monitoring systems. Okay, this system allows you to remotely monitor maybe up to 10 or 20 switchboard by using field bus technology. And All this data will be pulled back to your desktop, right? So there's a desktop software. So for those companies who are still very concerned about the putting data into the cloud, this is one of the technology that you can use. So actually we encourage, if company you are very concerned about the cloud, IoT, instead of Internet of Things, you can start working on the intranet of things, right? To put all these monitoring system within the plant floor. Until you're ready, then you can probably push this data to the cloud. This is some of the technology that our partner have come up, which is, I find that is very intuitive and also very cost effective. So as I said, that once your workforce are able to move into design thinking, there are a lot of things that can happen, right? So as you know, the worker, they are the front, the manager, they are the front end of the operations. If they are able to have a visibility and so ensure that all the data in place, they can use the design thinking to improve further. And also there will be a lot of innovation coming up from the shop floor. So for instance, you can see how the new way of doing your processes, right? How to develop even a new product and how can you serve your customer. So all this, the new and up and coming business model that people try to embrace. And I know that a lot of these training institute start to offer this, right? For instance, some of these IHL already have some of these courses, which is you all can sign up. I think some of this also under the SkillFuture framework that you can learn it at a very low cost. With all this technology come on board, we should look at how to embrace all this technology and actually improve your value chain. So even if you know that the global value chain actually is being distributed, so as you know, advanced country, they're no more doing so much manufacturing because the value add is very low. So what they do, they capture the higher value chain, for instance, the R&D, design, marketing, and all that. But I think manufacturing company can take this opportunity to see how to embrace all this technology to move up the value chain. So in the way that you should able to improve your revenue and also improve your productivity. In fact, 30 years ago, I've seen this so-called business concept that come out from Omron founder, but it's called scenic theory. So you can Google, the Omron scenic theory. This theory is very interesting. In fact, the founder already predicted during our time now, we'll be entering into the optimizations phase of the industrializations, right? So in the way that the machine and the man can actually work together. So the founder of Omron already predicted, right? The first stage, actually the machine actually replacing the human. So you are putting a machine there, human will do their own work, machine do their own work. Now we are also entering into the connected world in a way that the human will cooperate with machines, right? So this is the stage we are in the last 30 years. We are now in the so-called optimization society. So optimization actually create a lot of disruption, also create a lot of the new innovations. So I think this is where we will be a lot concerned that whether the machine will take over the jobs. But according to this Omron founder, it's not true, right? The moment it moves into the autonomous society, actually the machine will enhance the capability of human being. So this is, I find this framework is a very interesting, right? In a way that the corporation should look at how to take care, not only their profit, but also their worker and also the contribution to the society. And in any of these industry transformation or revolutions, we are talking about change. So it's corporate change management become a very important consideration while you're doing the industry 3.0 to 4.0. So as you know that to have a full transformation and change, you need few components. First thing is you need a vision. So company must set a vision. You have to make sure that you have a skilled workforce, and you incentivize them, and you provide the resources, and of course you have a good roadmap. Without these components, I think you will face some of the issue coming along. So as I say that, I think this is a very good framework when you want to move forward to implement your industry 4.0 or the smart factory programs. Communication is very important. This is why I say that you have to communicate with your partner, communicate with your worker, and communicate with your customer, right? This is at the end of my presentation. So as promised, I want to let you know why, what, how, where, and when, and who, right? So it's covered in my previous slide. And I also talk about digital transformation process. We talk about digitalization, and also digital transformations. So hopefully I have shared some of this experience, and also some exchange that I have with the regional partner and also the industry practitioner. One more question that posed to us during the registration is, how can your company, meaning Precicon or Lithium High as a group, help us in so-called the industrialization 4.0? You know that as a group, three of our company have more than 120 years experience in servicing the Singapore economy. We will move forward to see how can we bring new value and also new technology by working with the partners, by working with the end users, right? To move into the industrialization, or so-called to build a smart factory. What we know is there are a lot of new things will be coming out. They're trying to absorb all this new thing and select the right technology, the best of breed technology to help you to make sure that you are able to move into the smart factory roadmap. Today, I have covered not everything in the book that I've co-authored, but what you can do is a lot of this information I have extracted and actually put into our website, the Industry 4.0 portal. So I encourage you to scan this QR code and register yourself as a subscriber. From there, we should be able to send you more information. So for instance, we will share with you some of the best practices, technology, even training, and maybe some of the use case that we have. So that's all I want to share with you. Okay, I think we would like to maybe look at some of the Q&A, see. Okay, there's one Q&A from the participant, one quick question. For institution of higher learning like polytechnics, university, in your opinions, to prepare our graduate to be well equipped with the knowledge, right? And skill set in the area of smart facility, industrial IoT 4.0, what are the specific key areas that IHL could focus on? So, okay, maybe I would like to answer this question. Okay, I think you know that our educational systems for the last 50 years has been training people to become a good worker and good managers. That may not work moving forward. The IHL is also moved into an area of how to ensure that our graduates not only know the technology, but I think they should embrace some of the so-called innovations mindset. And lifelong learning, I think, is very important. So I know the IHL also tasked with a lot of the programs to train not only the existing students, but also the industries. So if you look at the industry, the skill future framework, a lot of this program is offered by the IHL. Of course, there are some private institutions also offer. So you should embrace some of this new technology into your curriculum. IHL should also try to work closely with the industry. As you know that I think a lot of these people, when they train by you in the, let's say in your IHL programs, right, they will go back to the industry. So you should able to get feedback from them in terms of whether your curriculum is still relevant, and a lot of interaction with them. And I know that a lot of these students are being sent to factory to do internships. So I think this is also a good opportunity. So before they even move on to the career path, they already have some experience. So the moment they move into the workforce or move into the factory, they will be more knowledgeable, right? And also they are able to help the plant owner or the business to ensure that all the processes and all the technologies they are able to embrace. I have some discussion with IHL, and also they get some feedback from me in terms of the curriculums. So I'm still in the process of working with them. I also work with some of the private institutions in terms of how to move the enterprise into the digital transformation roadmap. So these are the things that is ongoing. As you know that I think in the 3.0, sometimes you set the target, everybody can understand the target and they move forward. A lot of processes are very fixed. But as you know that now, even you set the target is a moving target. So you have to ensure that your workforce are agile, and also they are very dynamic with a lot of the innovation mindset. Only by embracing all this mindset and lifelong learning and working with the industry practitioners and all the vendors and the technology providers, I'm very confident that Singapore can move into a smart factory or industry 4.0 in the next couple of years. That's all. Maybe I want to do a last poll, right? Kenny, can you put up the last poll for our friends to take a look? Okay, so I think this is something that we want to also understand, you know, in terms of the technology that you think can be useful, the relevant to your to achieve your efficiency, productivity, quality in your operations. And of course, innovation is very important. So we may just want to take, so from there, we know that what is your concern, what are your pain points, and from there, our colleague will able to help you along the way. As I said, I think 4.0 or smart manufacturing is not a project. Actually, it's a journey, right? So we are committed to work with you, right, in this journey in the next maybe 5 to 10 years or even more. Okay, good. This is a very good feedback. So, you know, the IoT or AI, okay, industrial robots, smart control and connectivity. Okay, I think it's quite a wide spread. I don't think it's an issue that we can work with you, right? For instance, we know the IoT is become a very important technology. So why IoT? Because you want data. Without IoT technology, you are unable to get your data. We couple with the IoT, couple with the AI machine learning and OE, all these kind of things. In fact, we have a lot of programs that actually target all this area. So maybe we can discuss further offline, and you can always call upon our engineers or even our engineering and technical teams to help you. So thank you very much. I hope you have learned something, or we have shared something with you. Maybe what we do is maybe you can subscribe to our portal, and probably we'll see in the near future we can have a similar kind of the webinar maybe we will want to drill a bit more deeper into some of this technology and some of the use case, and also in sharing with you some of the best practices that we experience with our customers. So without further ado, thank you very much. I hope you have learned something. In fact, we will be also learning a lot of things from you in the near future. So have a safe day, and we see you next time. Thank you very much.